Hello, my name is Garth Holman, and
I'm JC Link.
we're here to talk about how we use Pear Deck in this final module and then your final project for Pear Deck. So we have 4 things we're going to show you. We're going to show you an email report. We're going to talk about how to save to your Google Drive and what that might look like, a little bit about takeaways, how to build these Quizlet flashcards, and then the difference between using teacher-led and student paced. So you want to start with that emailed report right here to the left or to the right.
Yeah, as you can see there, we don't really realize how many questions we ask in a day, but this report you get after every Pear Deck that you operate in your class. So you can see here the one that we chose to use. We have 6 periods, so we did 6 presentations, and we had 95 total students. So of these, we asked 1,053 questions, and we also got that many responses. So as this is, the Pear Deck, the title of being 100% engagement, every student answers every question. It can't be dominated by one student, and you find out what everybody's thinking. So that's really cool to see that report in your email after every Pear Deck that you present to your class.
Cool. So when we go back and we take a look at Pear Deck, these are the Pear Decks I've built over the last few years. So there's lots of them. We could open them up and talk briefly. Maybe we will just take a quick look at one so we can see it real briefly. But one thing I like to do when the kids do, let's say they read an article and then they're answering a series of questions. I like to talk about those questions after they do whatever they're doing. And then we can take the time kids can correct or change what they did. So it will modify what they're answering in Pear Deck. So that's a big plus as you go through this.
Yeah. And don't worry if this looks different than what you've been building, because Pear Deck did update their format, and it's just all through Google Slides now. This is the old format.
Yeah, so, all of these are almost all done with the old format, but they will still play as a Pear Deck. You're going to have no issues. It wouldn't matter that way. Okay, so the next thing we got here is a takeaway. So you want to talk a little bit about takeaways?
Yeah, the takeaways are pretty cool because if you're a teacher that likes to give notes or, this is basically the students' takeaway with all their answers. So whenever, after you're done with the Pear Deck, you publish takeaways and then you can send them directly to the student. So they get your slide and then their responses to it. Okay, so you can see there if just the draggable, wherever you took or wherever they dragged their red dot, that's the answer that they'll get back. If it's a short answer or multiple choice, they see on the left is your slide and then on the right is their response to it. Okay, so they remember everything.
Yeah, this is a drawing, so we were looking at the state standard. What are the keywords? What do they mean? So they wrote some things on them. Here's an example of them discussing what they know about using prior knowledge about Greece to kind of think back about the mountains and how that might impact, so their responses. So you can see here's the reading I was kind of talking about. They do a reading, they write down a story, but then we talk about that, and they can edit that story or change what they had written. So again, you just go through and it gives them all of their responses. The nice part I like is this review at the top. So then when they ultimately, you as a teacher get one link for the whole class, all the kids would just click that link and it automatically uses their Google to share back with them this takeaway. So it gives them a box that they can respond or write what they think. So I usually start the next period after we've done a Pear Deck, take 5 minutes, just write, what did you learn? And so this is an example of what the kid wrote about what they learned the day before. So it's a great way to review, and now they have a series of notes they can look back to for whatever you may be doing. So we'll move on to the flashcard factory.
Yeah, next thing after you, or the second part of Pear Deck that we talked about with you was the flashcard factory, the vocabulary words. But as you can see here, this is Quizlet, and you have several options you can do. Again, you see what the students ended up drawing, what they ended up defining the question as, or the term. But there's several options you can do with this. As you can see here, you can make the flashcards out of it. You can turn it into a test, matching, different spelling words. So this is useful at every level, kindergarten through 12th grade.
Well, and the key thing here is Pear Deck automatically does this. So even if you, when you do a vocabulary and the kids actually do it and you approve their work, there is at the end, when you're done, it'll say export to Quizlet. You just click it and it'll automatically export it to Quizlet with the kids' drawings and the images. So it's immediate and it's done for you. You don't have to do anything. Once you've approved the vocabulary words, they become that. So Quizlet, that's a nice feature. You don't necessarily need a Quizlet account. It'll build one with your Gmail because it's linked to your Gmail. So it'll create you an account, and all of a sudden the kids' definitions and their written drawings will become flashcards for you. So that takes us to the last thing, a little bit of discussion about student-led versus student-paced.
Yeah, in the first tutorial I gave you, I showed you the difference between them, and you know, the teacher-led is generally, I use it whenever we're in class. I turn on student-paced if it's like a homework or if I know I'm not going to be here for a day, and let the students go. So basically, I mean, the difference is you control the deck as teacher-led, and then at student pace you just turn it on and students can work at their own pace. If there's a unit or I guess a little project I use these for, students do work at different paces. They like to explore and go to different things. So I'll provide those links in there, and those students that want to dig deeper, they can do that. And it's not controlled by me. When I'm done with the slide and everybody's answered, we move on to the next one. So that's really useful in today. You know, if I do like a flipped lesson or something, the student pace is generally very helpful for that.
And I'll add on mine. I tend to, if I'm introducing information, it's teacher-led. If I'm reviewing information, it's student-paced. So when we introduce a topic or a unit, if you look back at all these shows, a lot of them are introductions, right? So what is Western society with ancient Greece? When you first start, there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of give and take, but there's also that formative assessment as you move through the Pear Deck, so you kind of see what they're picking up and what they're getting from classroom discussion. When I do the student-led, it's more like, okay, we've done a lot of stuff. Here are some things I want you to write about or think about or go look and see how they apply to what we've learned. So I see a difference in how I use those between introduction versus review. So that takes us, I think, to our final project, right?
Yep. Last thing to wrap this class up. Again, we want you to make a Pear Deck that is relevant to your class. We want you to use it there. So just a brief lesson plan of what your plan is and how you're going to use this in your class. However, whatever format you would like to do with that, whatever you normally do. So a 10-slide Pear Deck lesson built in Google Slides. You know, refer back to the first tutorial there to go through everything. And keep in mind, as you're building this, you know, what do you want your students to see? Okay, take it from that point of view and do 10 slides there. And then the second part of your final will be to make a flashcard factory, which is including 5 vocabulary terms from your class. And again, pick a unit or topic from your class so you can use it come the fall.
All right, so the only thing there is the vocabulary, because you can't turn it on self-paced, just take a screenshot as we did in the tutorial to include either in your lesson plan or you can plop it into the discussion board.
Right.
We hope you enjoyed Pear Deck. It does blur the line between direct instruction and student-led, so I hope you enjoy it, and you can shoot us any questions you may have in email. Have a great summer, and hopefully next year with Pear Deck is going to be an exciting year for you.
Yep. Enjoy.